This was a strange world. In order to save energy, people had turned the streets into giant moving walkways. All they had to do was stand on them, and they could travel anywhere. But there was one strict rule that could never be broken: never look up at the sky. Anyone who broke this rule would be sentenced to death. The reason for this law went back to a failed experiment. Humanity once tried to harness the Earth's gravity as an energy source, but the project spiraled out of control. More than half the population, along with countless objects, were pulled upward into the sky. With gravity reversed, what was once a beautiful blue sky had become a terrifying abyss. The survivors ordered everyone to never look upward again. But one boy was different. He wasn't afraid. In fact, he stared at the sky every single day. One evening, Eiji lay in the grass as usual, gazing up at the night sky. Suddenly, he spotted an upside-down backpack tangled on a wire. Curious, he got up to take a closer look. To his surprise, a girl was climbing down the wire, struggling to free the pack. When she lifted her head, she saw Eiji staring back at her. Both of them froze in shock. Eiji opened his mouth to speak, but Potoma slipped. She fell upward toward the abyss. At the last moment, she caught the wire and saved herself. Eiji didn't understand what was happening, but he rushed to help her. Because their weights were uneven, Potoma ended up pulling Eiji with her. Together, they began to float higher and higher into the sky. Eiji marveled at the breathtaking view above, but Potoma was terrified. To her, it wasn't a sky, it was an endless abyss. In her panic, she threw away her backpack, which helped them descend safely back to the ground. Potoma clung tightly to Eiji, refusing to let go. He had no choice but to take her to an abandoned warehouse. Once she found her footing, she finally relaxed. She peeked upward again and shivered at the sight of the abyss. Eiji then realized who she was. She must be one of the inverted, the people said to have been lost in the anti-gravity accident. Legend claimed they had all been sucked into the sky and vanished from the world. But to Potoma, it was Eiji who seemed like the real inverted one. When someone from one world stepped into the other, danger always followed. The school bell rang suddenly, forcing Eiji to leave. But before going, he promised Potoma he would return. They exchanged names, and even though they had just met, they already trusted each other. Eiji ran back to school excitedly. But when the daily broadcast began, his smile faded. Once again, the leaders repeated their lesson. The sky was terrifying. Those without the right to look upward were forced to bow their heads, beaten down by invisible authority. Eiji lost points in class just for glancing out the window at the sky. The windows were sealed shut soon after. The system had no room for disobedient children, nor for students who refused to obey. That evening, Eiji returned to see Potoma. He even brought her fresh bread. But their secret meeting didn't last long. The government had surveillance everywhere. Potoma's location was exposed. For enforcers were dispatched to capture her. They had no choice but to run. Potoma forced herself to face her fear of the sky. Together, she and Eiji glided across the land. If they could make it over the cliff ahead, she could descend slowly and return to her own world. Eiji believed they would succeed, but the army's captured drones shattered their hope. They struck Eiji unconscious. The truth was revealed: Potoma was indeed an inverted. The commander believed all inverted were